So before, as you know, if you have any questions, you're welcome to pose them by speaking your question or by writing your question in the chat box. I have, before we start, a couple of questions that were sent to me, and I will start. With those questions, and then we'll go to whatever questions you may have that are live. So it's a question from Debbie. Dear Magdi, could you speak about how the world is a reflection of my understanding? I have heard it said that my world will shift to reflect my understanding, my level of understanding. When I contemplate this, I wonder why some people who have great assets and properties, etc., are so stingy and greedy. Why is their world reflecting prosperity, but they act so poorly or so poor? And why don't truth lovers have those assets and money? It doesn't make sense. Thank you for answering my question. Mm. Okay. Whichever way the world appears to you, this appearance is meant as an invitation for you to experience the world in that particular way, and your experience, your particular experience, which changes, of course, throughout your life, but in that particular moment, your particular experience, the way the world is appearing to you, is the way in which you are invited to experience directly or indirectly the invitation to realize your true nature, which is beyond the experience of the world that you are having. In other words, whichever way the world is appearing to you is meant just for you, to lead you, to invite you to contemplate your true nature, the reality of consciousness. If you are experiencing wealth, like you say in your question, and then you're experiencing also being stingy, meaning a fear about losing this wealth, a fear about disappearing, about not having and not being, because you're identified with what you are having, so-called having. It is not possible for you to experience the angst and the unhappiness of stinginess, of worry, and of concern without being wealthy. In other words, if you did not have the wealth, you wouldn't experience being stingy because you have nothing to be stingy about. You follow? So you're experiencing wealth, and of course, because you are still identified as a separate self, you are identified with the world that seems to be yours, what's appearing to you. You're identified with your bank account. You're identified with the properties you own. You're identified with the vehicles, the cars that you own, and the power that you have. And that is actually what the separate self is this identification. And you are given all these objects of identification, these very shiny objects of identification. So you can experience the pettiness and the stinginess, the unhappy stinginess, which directly points to not the stinginess itself, but the unhappiness of being identified. Being identified as a wealthy person or as a person is unhappy no matter which way you flip the coin. If you flip the coin and it's poor, or if you flip the coin and it's wealthy, as long as there is identification, there will be unhappiness. So one way of looking at this, your question, is that some folks have a lot of so-called wealth, material wealth in their life, and yet they have a lot of unhappiness, is just to point clearly that the unhappiness that you seek in the world the happiness that you seek in the world does not deliver true happiness. I remember years ago, I met this couple who was very, very wealthy, really, really wealthy. And I went to their house, and it was a huge mansion. And when I went inside the house, I felt a complete sense of desolation. It was so... there was no love. There was no love. And in talking with the couple, it was very quickly came to the discussion of how unhappy they were about the children. I had two children who were just completely disappointing them in the way they were living. And they were very miserable about that, very unhappy about that. And at that moment, I remember there was so much wealth. I remember seeing the great contrast between what the environment in which they lived looked like, and what the internal environment within themselves looked like. There was big contrast. It was very sad. So the question is, why is their world reflecting prosperity, but they act so poorly? Yeah, because you're still identified as a body-mind. When you're identified, it doesn't matter what wealth comes through your hands. It doesn't foot the bill. Why don't truth lover have those assets and money? A truth lover has the asset that really, really matters. They have the love of truth. And love of truth is the greatest love, and the greatest fortune, and the greatest asset that there is. So it's our love for truth that takes us home. And your life in time will reflect that. It will become happy. Does not mean wealthy in a shining way, but it will become easy flow. The problems that you're experiencing in your life will dissolve. You will find yourself more and more content, and your life will become more and more easy and celebratory. And yes, in the material realm, everything will be taken care of. That's not the goal in our inquiry. That's just a side effect. The side effect of the contemplation of truth is that your world, body, mind become more harmonious. But you see, you're saying that your world will shift to reflect your understanding. When you are contemplating the truth, in order for your world to shift, in order to have a better world, a better life, that's not a true contemplation of truth. That's a contemplation of getting a better life. If you're interested in a better life, then you're still interested in being a person. The contemplation of truth is not about having a better life, but it is about realizing who is it, what is it that is seeking, what is it that is desiring, what is this personal self, what is this me, what am I truly? The question, what am I truly, is a different question of what is it that I can contemplate in order to have a better life. So if you're still spinning around having a better life, you need to take a look at the core. What is it that's at the core that's maintaining this spin? And you will find that at the source of the spin, there is the me that still wants something. And when you contemplate what is the me, you will not find a me. You will only find presence, awareness, beingness. But your contemplation has to be done correctly. You cannot contemplate via thinking. The contemplation has to bypass thinking. It has to be a direct contemplation. So be watchful of this whole idea of your world shifting, becoming a better world, having a better life, because the I thought is lurking behind the scene. Okay, let's go to another question. So Anna Cristina, hello Anna Cristina. So you sent me the following question.
Yes, hello Maggie.
Yes, hello Anna Cristina. So your question is, how often should we contemplate the self to dissolve the illusion of separation? Should we contemplate daily? For how long? 1 hour, 2 hours? In the Costa Rica retreat, you suggested doing the body awareness exercises 10 times a day. Is it so? So, Anna Cristina, so the question, your question, how often should I contemplate the self in order to dissolve the illusion of separation? I'm going to ask you another question that I'm going to reply to your question with another question. When you are in love, when you are in love with somebody or something, how often should you contemplate your lover?
Well, as much as I can.
When you are in love, you're contemplating your lover. In everything that you do, your lover is there. In every thought, in every act that you do, your lover, that you love, that you love is there. So the contemplation of truth is like falling in love. You need to understand the following, that the contemplation of the self is the constant contemplation of truth, the contemplation of reality. Everything else is thought. Everything else is mind. Let me say it another way. There is contemplation of truth, and everything else is the world, body, mind, is the weather. So if you just understand what I'm saying now, wouldn't you live every moment that is possible in your life in the contemplation of truth?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, it's not separating the everyday life, the thought, but an attitude at the root.
There is only one reality. And the awakening to the reality is given to us in this opportunity. We are given this opportunity to awaken to truth. There is no greater gift. There is no greater invitation. So, honoring this invitation is your life's purpose.
Yeah, I understand that one should let it permeate all of life. But I often find myself, since I have a very mental and academic work, I often find myself fighting the contemplation to concentrate on thought, because I am asked to produce articles, classes.
Okay.
So it's a fight.
Well, there is a functional thought, like the thought of, I need to go shopping, I need to buy some salad, I need to buy some tomatoes, I need to buy some cucumbers, because lunch, it's lunchtime and the body's hungry. Yes? So it makes sense at this time to be doing these activities. But the fact that I'm doing these activities, meaning I'm going to the market, does not mean that I have moved away from the contemplation, because I can be going to the market and still be contemplating presence. I can be talking right now and still be contemplating presence. I can be at the cashier paying for the groceries, and I'm still contemplating presence. And there are some thoughts that arise that are planning thoughts. I need to plan some activities. And these thoughts are necessary thoughts that arise, and they serve a purpose, and then they dissolve. Right?
Yeah.
So that does not disturb the contemplation.
The contemplation.
And when the I thought, arises about my problems and my future and so on, even that does not disturb the contemplation, because within the I thought, you're concerned about tomorrow, about yourself, about your enlightenment, about your money, about your relationships, whatever. These thoughts, these I thoughts, they're going to also produce me feelings, unhappy me feelings, unhappy contractions. And these unhappy contractions, they're an invitation for you to notice that at that very specific moment, you have reduced your wholeness, you have reduced consciousness to be a woman, to be a body mind, to be a bundle of thoughts. So in a way, once you start to understand the contemplation, you will find that everything for you is food for contemplation.
Yeah, I see.
So when you say that I have a problem, having a problem, my work is interfering with my contemplation, that in itself is a contemplation. Who is having a problem?
Yeah.
Who is having a problem? So you can look at that. Who's having a problem? There is a thought that arises that says, I should be having a different life. I should be having a life of contemplation. Right? And not a life of work. Right. So that thought arises. But that thought is referring to I as this man or this woman.
Yeah.
So the question is, am I a body mind? Am I a female or male body mind? Am I a man or a woman? Am I an object? Am I a person? It's a good question. So if I am a person, if I'm the body, and at the same time I am the manager of the body, that makes no sense.
Yeah, it's a contradiction.
Right, I am the manager of the body, okay.
Yeah.
But that's a different thing from I am the body.
Yeah.
Right?
The identification, yeah.
Yes. So whenever the thought arises that says that, I should be having more time for contemplation and less time for work or whatever, that very thought is referring to I as a body-mind. That is ignorance. And secondly, the thought that says something about you does not know you. A thought does not know you. You follow?
Yeah.
You are the one that knows the thought. Right?
Right. Yeah.
So the fact that you know the thought means the knowingness is here. It's not in the thought.
So in the end, there's no contradiction between working and using the mind in a certain way and contemplation if one is not identifying as a person with what one is doing.
Correct. Even when one is identifying, there can be contemplation of what is this identification.
Yeah. Because it's bothersome. One feels bad.
Absolutely.
That's why I feel like in opposing directions.
Absolutely. You will feel
one can contemplate that. Yeah.
Right. You will feel the unhappiness, and then the question is, what is it that is unhappy? What is it that is unhappy? I am unhappy. I what? Consciousness is never unhappy. Consciousness is. It has nothing to do with happiness or unhappiness. Consciousness means awareness.
Yeah.
The reality of awareness. Beingness. Unhappiness always refers to a person. Unhappiness always refers to somebody wanting something that is not. Or it refers to somebody not wanting something that is.
So in a way, it is like surrendering to what is.
You could say surrender, yes, surrendering to what is, and at the same time, contemplating, what is it what am I? Obviously, there is a reality right now. It's not nothing. There is a reality which is not what is appearing, because what is appearing is constantly changes. There is a reality. What is this reality? What am I? This reality is I. I know I am. I know I knows I. Not as a man or a woman or as tall or short or... I knows I. There is a knowingness, a self-knowingness within the I. The self is self-knowing. There is a knowingness, an inner knowingness of the self that is not via thought.
Yes.
So the question always is, what is this I? And it becomes clear to you that this I is invisible, is an invisible knowingness, awareness, beingness. So the reality is invisible. Because consciousness is real. There is a reality to consciousness. It's not a myth. It's not a concept. It's not an idea. Let's think about consciousness. No. It is. Consciousness is a fact. So the word consciousness, the concept consciousness, refers to the reality of beingness, awareness.
Yeah. It's also like surrendering to that. Let that permeate you because it's there. And not fight it because you're working.
Yes.
And now consciousness go away because now I'm working. But be able to be with that. Yes.
What would tell consciousness go away?
The separate self.
The separate self is a myth.
Well,
it's a thought. It's a thought.
A thought.
A thought. The separate self is an image. Between two thoughts, there is still awareness. The thought is an image. How can the image say anything? Image is like a is like the weather is like clouds. You look at clouds, or you look at a tree. It's an image, or a thought is an image.
Yeah.
So it's resting. It's resting as being, right? Resting as being. So in this very moment, like rest as being, sort of lay back, you know? allow the energy that is leaning forward to sort of float, allow it to float and to float behind you. Allow the energy to sort of permeate the space as if behind you, and it's an aware, free-floating, aware space.
That's nice. Free floating aware space.
Yes.
That's lovely.
Yes. So you rest as that, and you invite whatever arises into that free-floating aware space. There's no problem. Just welcome. It's a welcoming space. It has no doors to it. No doors. It's an open, aware field that permeates the entire space. It's not focused around your body. Your body is permeated by it, but it's also permeating the entire space. Right? So it permeates the body, but it also permeates the entire space. So you just space around you, behind you, to your right, to your left, above, below, the entire space, including your body.
Yeah.
So the body is permeated with space. So you go to the space quality that permeates the body.
Yeah, I see. And in that space, you allow everything that unfolds, even the work, the thought.
Yes, the space is allowing. It's an allowing space. There is no you in it. It's just the allowing space. The space is an allowing space. You follow?
Yeah, I follow. Yeah.
It's an allowing space. And it's also a space that is all-knowing. Meaning it's a space that perceives, that speaks, that hears, that weathers, that is.
Yeah.
There isn't a separate knower. It's a knowing space. It's a cosmic knowing. It's a cosmic field of knowingness that permeates the entire space, including your body.
Yeah, I get it. Thank you very much, Magdi.
Yeah, and rest as that. Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, one more question from Andreas. Hello, Magdi. I've been interested in the teachings of Ramana Maharshi and visited Arunachala, India. A friend recommended working with you. I have two questions. One, because I must live in the world and earn money, I cannot be solely contemplating. Why not?
Has the same problem that I have. Yeah.
Yes. I feel like my practice isn't going deep enough. What do you recommend? Don't be so judgmental. Don't be so judgmental of yourself, of your practice. Don't hold on to the idea that you are doing a practice. The practice is doing you.
Yeah.
Simply remain open to grace. Don't perceive the world and earning money as a problem. It is part of your path. If your path is calling you to work and earn money, you will be looking in that direction, and grace will lead you into the world of making money, or will lead you into some fortune coming to you from left field, and you will find yourself, you're in the world and you don't have to earn money. You don't know. Just remain open to grace, and don't live in some me images about me in time, my future, what's going to happen to me. These images, we tend to believe them because we start to feel them. They're unhappy. And life is not about unhappiness. It is about happiness. And happiness is not later when you have a better job, or you have a better home, or when you have a better security. Happiness is now. Contemplate what is happiness now. Not what is happiness now when I have a better job or when I have a better home. That's not the way. What is happiness now, period, independent of time and space. Remain open to grace leading you and the showing you the path. In fact, already via these questions, grace is coming to you and is speaking to you. In the contemplation of truth, we fall deeper and deeper in love. It happens in spite of us, not because of us, in spite of us. So let yourself be done. Let yourself be practiced. The second question, I don't live near anyone who understands these teachings. Well, you know, there are a lot of people that so-called understand these teachings, and to be around them may not be good for you. You may be better off right now being away from those people who so-called understand this teaching. So it may not be such a bad thing for you not to be living near anyone who understands these teachings. There are a lot of misunderstandings that are disguised as understanding. I feel alone on my journey, and all friends are interested in very shallow activities. They don't mean anything to me. These activities don't mean anything to me. I am longing for contact with people who don't love world activities. I feel it is a bad influence to be with such people, so I am now mostly alone. Thank you, Andreas. In your journey, you will find that there is going to be some attrition. Some of the relationships that you had, some of the friendships that you have will change. Some of the old friends will drop off, and you'll experience a time of being alone. And then you will find other friends that will appear to you, friends that also are interested in the truth. It will arise to you. It will happen in your life. You just have to be open to it. But don't be so sorry if some of the old friends drop off. In fact, from what you are expressing, you are also noticing that you're not getting the nourishment from the company that you have. I suspect that the company that you have may be people who don't have much interest in truth, and therefore their mind is constantly spinning empty stuff. They're spinning, but opinions. It makes sense that these relationships will be of lesser and lesser interest to you. This does not mean we have any judgment. Everybody is where they need to be, and this is their path, that's their journey. Continue to attend satsang whichever way you can. Look in the direction of the teaching. Be open to the teaching that resonates for you, and do your best to join this teaching, attend this teaching, frequent this teaching. And today we have the great fortune that we can, via the internet and other means, at least have some sort of interaction, which is it makes things a little easier, although being, of course, in the company of truth lover and company of your teacher is would be the higher on your priority list, if you can make that happen somehow. So yeah, well, if you feel it's a bad influence being with certain people, just stop being with them. I like to think of being alone as all one instead of alone, all one. So in being alone, we can be alone in, oh my God, in thinking, how come I'm alone and others are with other people, and where are my friends, etc. That's via thought. You're experiencing via thought the personal self being alone. But when you turn your attention to the I, you will come to all oneness, all one. And in all one, I am everyone and everything. So when you're experiencing being alone, ask yourself, what is it that is alone? Right now, what is it that is alone? In the absence of the thought, I'm alone. What is it that is alone? Nothing. It is the thought that arises and says, I'm alone. A thought that refers to you as if the thought knows you, says, oh, I'm alone. And then we experience the feeling, the negative emotion of loneliness. You need to discriminate between the thinking and emoting and being. Turn your attention to being. Not a human being, not a personal being, but pure absolute being. Ask yourself, what is absolute being in this very moment? But you cannot think about it. You have to go directly to absolute being. If you're thinking about it, you're going into the conceptual realm. But if you remain still and allow the question to go directly to being itself, absolute being, it will reveal itself as your very self, this very moment, which is not a personal self. It's a transparent, infinite, borderless being. And in that and as that, there is no such thing as aloneness or loneliness. Rather, it is wholeness, allness, oneness.
I said soccer. I know several people who are inexplicably very fascinated with this soccer. And they've just been having games.
The World Cup.
Worldwide thing. And to me, it's kind of inexplicable, but it makes me just wonder about the whole fixation sounds like a negative word in a way, but fixation on something like that why am I fixated on playing music instead of just listening to the birds, for example? Why do people want to anyway?
What is this I that you speak of?
Well,
or the people that you speak of. What people? What is your experience of people outside of thought, perception, sensation, outside of your very self? What is there outside of your very self? And I don't mean your personal self, outside of awareness. A thought appears, and what believes that thought? Of course, there is a witnessing of the thought, because we say there is a thought that's appearing. Okay? So there is a witnessing. But the thought has a content. The thought may say, the earth is flat. Or it may say, I am such a wonderful, realized person. What believes that thought? There is a witnessing. Where do we go? What's the step that we take from witnessing to believing? We have to separate ourselves. I witness my night dreams, pink flying elephants. They're at zero distance of my very self. They are my creation, and I create them and I perceive them simultaneously.
Right.
And then I find a problem with the pink flying elephant. So I'm finding a problem with my very self, because my creation and my witnessing is my very self. It is not a part of myself. The judgmental mind is always separating. It starts by the subtle I thought, I, and the other. And of course, there is a very subtle I good, the other bad, or sometimes it's the opposite, I'm bad and the other is good. But it's still, it's a judgmental separateness. And as soon as the I thought arises, the mind is spinning in confusion. And the emotions.
Mm.
And then there is a pinball effect of thought. Pim, 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 pim. And it could be that lots of the thinking and the fascination with the thought is a way in which we say no to the contemplation, because there is contemplation and then there is thought. When we say yes to thought, we're saying no to contemplation by
yeah.
So we say, okay, let's think about these people, about the world, about the politics, about this and that and that. In the fine print is, forget about contemplation.
Right.
I'm more interested in the stories, in the thoughts, in the philosophies, in the history, in the projections, in the remembrances, in the comparisons, in the judgments, in the measurements, in the analysis, in the dialogues, in the dissertations. That's really good.
So I was using soccer as a scapegoat in a sense. And you're suggesting to look at the whole bouquet of interests and thought.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, there may be interests that arise, maybe thoughts that arise that are very happy and beautiful and celebratory, like the thought of, God, like I want to cook a nice dinner and invite these two neighbors, or invite my friend Bob or whatever. And so that arises not out of, oh, I'm alone, I'm lonely, and no, it's like, oh, it'd be nice to get together. It'd be nice to get together,
Right.
Have a nice dinner and sit on the deck, whatever. Go for a walk.
Right.
It's a different thing from thoughts that are like take you on a spin and separate. Yeah.
Yeah. I worked. I don't normally work the night shift, but I worked last night, and I just barely made it home. I took a nap on the way home in a park, but it was a little noisy. So anyway, I'm a little slow, but brain is a little slow. But the awareness is pretty much here.
It's nice when there is this tiredness of the body, and the brain also is sort of is ready to let stuff go. It's not gelling too much. It's good. You can just sort of just be, just be right, just be. You can be, you slouch, a little bit. Right? It's like, it's good. It's good.
Right. At work, when I finish up in the office, I'm doing my paperwork on the computer, and I get a little foggy, and I ask a simple question, and they just laugh and say, "Oh, you forgot such," and it's kind of fun, actually.
Yeah.
It's a way of being really high in a way, an altered state, but nobody minds. It's like
right. So you don't mind, right? So I don't mind the body mind being fuzzy, foggy. Who cares? It's good. What do I care? I'm not trying to market my body mind. I mean, if I was going to an interview for a job or something, I would want to, splash some cold water on my face.
It's all, it's all about appropriateness is part of the whole package.
Yeah, right, right.
So yeah, being judgmental is a kind of a nasty habit that I still see sometimes, and
Right, right.
like I don't, I may see Donald Trump's face, twice in a week, on a newspaper or something. I've got it out of my life, and I'm kind of judgmental,
Right.
and yet I know it's a big, sociological event,
Right.
and
Right. Yeah. Don't be judgmental of being judgmental.
oh, well, that's
Huh? And
if something deserves it a little, I just
don't be judgmental of being judgmental, and also don't be judgmental. You know,
right,
it's
right,
all. Everybody is where they need to be, and they are what they're reflecting, what that reflection is at that moment, and you are perceiving just what you need to perceive, and just what do you do with it.
yeah, right, and that's
So we can separate ourselves and judge the other because we're perceiving something. Is that in what way is that a contemplation of truth? In what way is that?
right.
In what way is that grace? It's a good question. Well, this
I'm not
doesn't
sure.
mean that. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure what you meant. It's grace. You mean it's grace to even find oneself doing something stupid, like being judged, sitting around being judged?
I'm saying in what way is it grace or graceful to be judgmental? Of what purpose is it? Now, I
Well,
don't mean that we can join into what appears to us miserable and unhappy. We don't touch it,
right.
of course. So no, that's not the game that appeals to me.
Mm-hmm. I know. It's immediate. It's almost like a spigot. Turn the spigot, and the water's going out the wrong way. You're
Yeah.
judgmental. You don't feel good.
Right. So we all hold on to our beliefs like we are right, and that's wrong.
Old.
Because what we are is nothing to do with the beliefs. It's all a dream, a dream of the separate self. Is being identified as a separate self.
It's pretty wild that all the suffering, any possible suffering or limitation, is a mind construct embraced from the old paradigm of me.
Suffering. I mean, we suffer. Well, when we resist, but before the suffering of resistance, there is the suffering of being a me.
Yeah, right.
Because at the core of the resistance, there is this belief that there is something at stake, and that it refers to some potential harm to what? To whom? So in the very act of relaxing, resting, and letting go, the core ignorance, the core identification is compromised. because it maintains itself by resisting or pushing or pursuing. And when we remain still and surrendered, that mechanism is compromised. It doesn't have legs to stand on.
That makes me think of some of the earlier questions you were dealing with, and when a person, we're in a culture where people rush somehow, and don't allow that spacious, even just a simple sense of spaciousness. And you have a busy life, and working in Washington D.C., etc. But I think it's something usually added on to that actual work, the actual necessary activities, that causes seemingly lack of space or lack of contemplation. Just occurred to me.
As long as there is a me working, there is unhappiness, even if the working is just mowing the lawn once a day, or once a week.
Yeah.
So what would be, for example, working in the contemplation of the self? The self doesn't work.
Does the work?
Does not work.
Oh. No. Okay.
Consciousness does not work. Works refer to body-mind, yes?
Yes.
Not to consciousness.
But if you let go of the me, the doer, then it seems like could you say it's consciousness rolling out the whole thing, including your so-called work.
There is no me, the doer, right? There is no me,
okay.
the doer, right? So it's already rolled out, because in fact there is no me, right? All there is consciousness, yes? So we can go directly to consciousness to answer your question, because we can only go to reality to get the real answer, and we can go to Santa Claus to get a Santa Claus answer. So instead we go to reality, and we ask reality, we ask consciousness directly. Your question, which I forgot what it is the question, do you work?
Yeah, right.
You can go to reality and you ask reality, do you work?
But I guess what you're saying is neither I work nor consciousness works. Really, there is no work.
There is no work, because right. For the one reality, there is no work. So outside of the thought I am working, what is working? Let's say in the absence of the thought I am working. Then what is our conversation about working? So we have to assume the thought. We have to say, okay, the thought I am working, we say yes to I am working, right? Because in the absence of the thought I am working, there is no conversation about I am working, right? So in order to have a conversation about I am working, we have to assume the thought, yes, I am working is right. Is some truth being spoken to us via the thought I am working, yes?
Yeah, I follow that, yeah.
So, but we know that thought cannot speak any truth, because the thought, how can the thought speak anything? I'm the knower of the thought. The thought has no knowingness to it.
Yeah.
So that ends the whole conversation. Your question, the question is answered in just looking at that, what we just looked at right now. Now, there may be another thought that arises, says, well, wait a minute, that's not good enough. We need to think a little bit. Let's think a little bit more about it.
Or like, well, okay, and then when I don't need to go, when there's no need for work, there's 2 days off, the person can say, now I'm a little lonely. And you just talked about loneliness with some earlier, and that was an idea, purely an idea.
Yes, it's thought that it refers. There is a separate self. There is a me as a body mind that now is consciousness. Now is this person. Somehow, consciousness has become now this person, and this person looks around and says, "Well, where is everybody?"
Maybe I can go to work. Maybe they'll let me.
Yes. So it is always the switch from truth to imagination.
Mm-hmm.
So when you switch from truth, because truth means reality, one reality,
right,
there is just the reality.
Mm-hmm.
And you switch to I am defined by thought.
Mm-hmm.
I am this person.
Mm-hmm.
So the contemplation is the contemplation of what am I truly? Am I something that appears? Does anything that appears define me?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I that infinite, invisible reality, presence, that witnesses all what appears, and all what appears arises at zero distance of me, like my dreams arise to me?
Mm-hmm.
What am I truly?
Mm-hmm.
To come to the cure of ignorance, and the cure of ignorance is reality.
Mm-hmm.
The cure of ignorance is not a new belief, is not some experience, it is a reality. And reality is, it is not, there is nothing closer to you than reality. Because in this very moment, something is real. Is right here, something is real. What is it?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not thinking and debating about truth, about teaching, about teachers, about the silence, about the humor, about it's none of that. It is all nonsense. It is about awakening to the reality.
Mm-hmm.
There is no such thing as serious and non-serious. There is no such thing. That is only in the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Truth is absolute. It laughs and it doesn't laugh. It smiles and doesn't smile. It dances and it doesn't dance. It flies and it doesn't fly.
But it's untouched. It's always the
Absolute.
same. Yeah. And just what's coming out of this conversation too, I'm just aware that if there's a me in place and of importance, it tortures itself constantly. It doesn't want to go to work, and then it doesn't want to be lonely, and then it's so this place that you're, it's not a place, but what you're talking about, reality. Now, I hear what you're saying. It's the only antidote.
Yes, because it's not divided. How can you divide the ocean? How do you divide the sky? How do you divide space? It is not divided. So there isn't any conflict. There isn't me and the better me, the bad me and the good me, the good me and the bad other. There is none of that. It's just the transparency of being, which we refer to as the peace. The peace, the freedom, the beauty, the love. The peace, the stillness. the stillness that is, not not some stillness that is the result of thinking or of some practice. It is the stillness that is. The spaciousness of being, not the reality of being, the transparent reality of being.
Your picture is frozen right now. Do you still hear me?
To the wholeness of being. To have the courage to go to the wholeness of being. It is, there's a lot of pulling you back. Your life, your stories, your thoughts, your relationships, all of that is pulling you back. It's telling you, no, solve this problem, be that, work on this, work on that, and maybe this will work, and then try this and try that. Advaita is the direct teaching to go directly to the wholeness of being. Surrender your entire world, body, mind. Allow God's grace to operate in your life. It takes care of business. Contemplate the self. Contemplate truth. Remain steadfast in your contemplation. Don't get attached to feelings and sensations. Allow them to pass through like the weather passes through. Allow them to be like the clouds. Do not resist or attach yourself or define yourself in any way. Remain undefined. You already are undefined. Just recognize that you are that. It is undefined and undefinable.
There's one you mentioned. It's not in philosophy. It's not in arguing, points of view or something. But one thing that I would like cleared up a little. It's sort of coming clear just in this listening, is the idea of stillness, emptiness, even emptiness, stillness, just reality like that, and that feeling of a source, of one, call it God or source or one reality like that. That's like the positive or the empty. They seem to be the same thing. As I don't need to even define them, maybe. But
let me see if I understood your question. Is about the stillness, the emptiness, and the reality. And reality, are they the same?
Reality in the sense of, like in Vedanta, which is like the one sun, the one.
Yes.
The one. It's the source, even the idea of source. And then there's the emptiness and the silence on the other hand.
Yes, so so the stillness of being shines, and it's in its shining, it's revealing everything as itself, and it's inviting the recognition via that shining and via the stillness, the silence that is being expressed via whichever way it's shining. There is a stillness in the flight of a bird. There is a stillness in the movement of the wind. There is a stillness in the movement of the ocean. As the storm is arising, there is a stillness, a harmony. It's all interconnected. And the impression of movement refers to the stillness. Because the movement, that the impression arises in the stillness. So the silence, the stillness, the source, the one reality, they're all various, they carry in them various, they express various facets of the diamond. It's one diamond, but they speak of various facets, of various aspects of the one diamond.
So that one diamond is the undeniable reality.
It's the undeniable reality. It is the stillness. It is
but then it has expression of beauty. It has all possibilities.
It is right. It is the undeniable reality, the nonness.
The what?
The nonness. N-O-N-E, nonness.
Yes.
It is the nonness, everythingness. Nonness as everythingness. Nothingness, everythingness. As one.
This me idea, it's like I'm picturing it's like a soldier who's standing out in a big vast plain, and the war is over, or whatever. He's standing there with his rifle, and there's no, you know what I mean? He has
go home.
Drop it, just drop
obsolete. It became obsolete.
Yeah, right. And anyway, thank you so much. It was a great conversation.
Okay, Ananda.
Clarifying a lot, that you don't have to go anywhere to be there.
What would go where? It's a dream journey. I don't go anywhere. I'm not the body. The body comes and goes. As an appearance, it appears to you, it comes and goes all the time. It appears to you all the time. But in fact, there is no movement. There may be a thought that arises saying there is movement. But what is the meaning of movement? What is the meaning of motion? Motion refers to a point of stillness, and then there is a measurement between this point A and then point B. And the distance between point A and B is increasing as object B is moving.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing of distance and motion. That's the whole of motion. But are there two separate points? In awareness, there are not two separate points. Where would you draw a point in awareness?
Well, like yesterday, I washed my van, which is kind of big, and it was really dirty from my trip to Mount Shasta. So I was out there scrubbing. I felt like it was no different from sitting in the living room. So I'm just making a comparison.
Yeah.
Activity. These are so. In a way, they're subtle, and in a way, they're just so simple.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, Ananda. So, any questions, anyone?
Magdi?
Yes. Hello, Esther.
Hi. I just want to share a great listening to you and Ananda reminded me this past week, I had this great aha. The quotation, the truth is true and all is well. All is well. And at the same time, the whole political, for some reason, the current political scene popped up in my awareness. And for the very first time, there was absolutely no judgment of it on my part, because I saw that it had absolutely no power whatsoever to make things not well. It had absolutely no power. And so it was just like empty air.
Yes, yes, wonderful.
It was a great insight that the two came together like that.
Yes, yes, it's the magic of insight. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, it's beautiful. Yes. Somehow there are, insight cuts through, it cuts through it just cuts right through the mind. It's
Yeah,
like,
and we have to trust that more and more, you know,
well,
because that's how it works.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And somehow there's, at a deeper level, there is an alignment, you know, via these insights. The mind may not comprehend that, but that's inner alignment. More harmony. Okay, Richard. So any questions, anyone? Okay, well, thank you all.
Namaste.
Okay, namaste. See you soon. Gracias. Thank you.